were talking about the future when we go home. Said we would wait, figure it out, spend some time alone. Way out across the sea. I hope that you still think of me. Please don't tell me when I'm gone that you won't care. Underneath it's just a lie, I know you're scared. This could be something, something. This could be something, something. This could be more than just a summer thing.
Everyone, are we good? Cool. And good morning, everyone on Zoom. Thank you for being here. Happy Tuesday. We have a great special guest today, our very own Darryl Bodle, his first ever KWB Weekly Business Meeting. Even though he's been here for a long time. But let's go through what's going on this week. We have our last Ignite session tomorrow, taught by Dwight. Gotta close it up strong. So a lot of you guys have gone to the whole series, so that is awesome. It's a big celebration. Dwight's wrapping it up with negotiating the offer and getting to close. So a very good topic. And then the following day, we are doing business planning clinic. Yeah. So business planning clinic, if you have not registered, please register. It's the last chance to register because we are ordering breakfast and lunch, and we will send you some like pre-work, and we'll pull some numbers and stats for you, so that you kind of have a better look at your numbers for 2024 if you pre-register. And there's materials and everything. So this one, and it will fill up. So please register for this one. We hope to see all of you guys there. You will leave with a business plan. I know a lot of you guys have already registered, but if you haven't, it's for new agents, experienced agents, teams, individuals. It applies to everyone and just really looks at the 4 models of the millionaire real estate agent and how you can grow your business. Yes. Cole or Nick can check for you. So, but thank you. And if you register twice,
we'll recognize the name.
That is the name. But yeah, sometimes it doesn't matter about registering. This one, it does help because there's a lot of like materials. And even I had a couple people ask me if they can't stay the whole time. That's fine. Still come. I mean, try to stay the whole time because you'll actually leave with a full business plan. But if, you know, that last hour, first hour is limiting you, still come. So hopefully we'll see all of you guys there. And then tomorrow we have a CE class, a regular Wednesday CE class by Foundations First. So how to winterize your house or tell your clients how to winterize their house. And this is CE credit and lunch and learn. So register for that as well to make it easy for the CE class. And then Jail, she's not in here, but Jail's teaching a class for the first time, how to analyze a deal for investment. So a lot of you guys know Jail, but she leads, along with Julie, the Women Real Estate Investors Network of Oregon. And so they did a lot of her own flips. So she's going to be going through buying a fixer to either flip or to keep as a rental. So it's her first time teaching this, but before she got into real estate, she actually was a teacher. So she should be good. So go ahead and register for that. We're happy to support Jail, and it's a CE credit as well. Okay. And then save the date. So next week we'll have a regular meeting in here, but then the following week of Thanksgiving, we are going to do like we did last year. We will do a gratitude breakfast in here. So we still encourage you all to come. We'll bring in lots of food, and we just want to show our appreciation to you guys who make the ship run, right? Dad on that.
Darryl's invited.
Darryl is invited, the whole team. It might be another 10 years. It's going to be another 10 years before you come back in here. But just know if you're planning the week of Thanksgiving, we won't have any CE classes or anything on Wednesday, but we will do gratitude run. This meeting. Okay, what else? Okay, our top agents. This is these are the numbers through October. So for individual agents, Linda Heinrichs, just under 21 million. Bradley King here in the room, 18 million. Matthew Wade, right on your tails at 17.9. Grace Kim, right on his tails at 17.4. And Cricket at 13.5. Chris Burley was so close to Cricket, we had to do her as an honorable mention at 13 million.4 through October. So round of applause for our individual agents. And then our groups and teams, we're not just doing this because you're here. We actually do this every month. The office of Darryl Bodle through October, 169 million. Yes, you read that right. Fox Real Estate Group, 121 million. Here locally, 132 million with their expansion group. Waldman and James Realty Group, 37 million. JO Property, 24.8, and DC Homes Group, 15.9. So round of applause for our teams and groups. And I do want to give a shout out to Pam and Laura are both this week. They are in Austin visiting Gary Keller for Gary Keller's Top Agent Mastermind. So we're hanging out with him this week, masterminding, and bring back. Our friends at Homefront, we have Azure, Ty, and Kylie here today. You guys have any updates? Awesome.
Friday. Point, and over the weekend we've gone down by get updates about the and that's 104 users.
Cool. Thanks, Kylie. And you guys taught a DSCR class last week that was so good. It was, Joe and I were both like, wow, that made us both think about like, we gotta, like different financing for more investment properties. So that was great. All right, Joe.
I'm up next.
Yes.
Just some short, important updates in regard to compliance. So end of year means forms update. There'll be some major changes, not major changes, but there will be some changes that will affect the way the forms are presented, the way the forms will be out in the field. So the first things are, we are going to schedule an in-office presentation of those updates. Once I get those updates, I have yet to see them. I have an idea of what's going to happen, but those updates will include things to the sale agreement, to the buyer representation bundle, both exclusive, non-exclusive, and some other forms throughout your library. So those will be, I think, will be delivered to me around the 3rd or 4th of December. I'm doing, and then on the 5th, they will have webinars that will be hosted by Colin Williams on the 5th, the 8th, and the 2nd. The forms will be made available for your use on January 3rd. So they will be in the libraries on January 3rd. But you'll have a synopsis of that nature. And a lot of the forms obviously are regarded in reliance to Oregon House Bill 4050. A lot of changes to be implemented in your real estate. The first one being the representation agreement. So obviously, as members of MLS, we have to have that agreement in place now. But on the first, all licensed brokers in the state of Oregon have to have a representation agreement. So if you're not a member of an MLS, we'll need to have that. That's the big. The second one would be disclosed limited agency, meaning you are representing both buyer and seller. Going forward in January 1, you will have to have a listing agreement. You'll have to have a buyer representation. You'll have to have a disclosed limited agency. You're going to have 3 agreements if you're working both, if you're representing both sides. The other thing too is the compensation transparency. That's the basis for a lot of House Bill 4058 is the consumer confidence in what we're doing, what we're presenting, what we're showing, how we're getting paid. And when it comes to transparency, one item that particular highlight is in regards to commercial brokering. Usually commercial brokers don't need representation moving forward on a property, and they still won't have to have a representation. Doesn't mean you don't need one. It's always right. get one, but there's gonna be new documentation that's gonna show how you're being paid, first, buyer or seller. So there may be a new form that'll just say, hey, this is what I'm getting paid, this is how I'm getting paid, this is what I'm. So that's the one change to the representation and to the transparency. And then restrictions on wholesale. Wholesalers now are gonna have to register real estate commissioner. They're gonna have to be, there are gonna be changes in how they advertise their services to protect both buyer and seller. And they're advertising things of that nature. They also will have to, they can no longer have future to list designated reps, meaning I'm going to list your property in some time in the future. That timeline is only 2 years that you can actually help relist a property with somebody. Can't go beyond, can't say, hey, when you're ready to sell, 10 years, I get it. That is now off the table. So no future right to list anymore, only up to 2 years. So that are kind of the three of the key elements. And again, there'll be some training here. We'll get you a date. I'll lead that training. Once I know what they are, once I've seen them, and then we will then promote all the webinars that they'll. Any questions on updates? So we'll see. Yes, go ahead. Yeah, sure.
So with the wholesaling has a realtor.
Right.
If they're an LLC affiliated with somebody on not a realtor, so
That's a great question. I don't know.
You would.
So I'm assuming you're gonna have to have the same disclosures. I will check and verify that. Still what?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. The big issue is just preventing these contracts to assign it to somebody else, during escrow. That's how the wholesalers, if you don't know, make their money. They buy distressed properties, they get properties at a price point, and they try to assign those to another buyer in the escrow period, and then they take themselves out. And the difference of what they bought it for, what they sold it for, or negotiate with the wholesaler, that's how they make it. So it's a tough industry. We hear it on a national level where entities are coming in buying massive tracts of homes. But Oregon's really ahead of the curve on this in terms of a smaller process. Yeah. Cooling period, you mean in the relisting element for residential? It depends on the scenario. So it has to be canceled or expired, then 30 days thereafter.
And that took effect October 28th, right?
Yeah, that's already been, that's in effect. Now that was an immediate, last month. Yeah, so, so 30 days once it's relisted, once it's expired or canceled, 30 days after.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Jim.
everybody. Yep.
Okay. Well, now let's bring up our special guest, our very own Darryl Bodle. Come on up here. You staying up here?
No,
You're down.
Okay.
Darryl, I'll give you the warm one. Oh, thank you for being here. So our Zoom friends are up there in the camera. But I want to just start by telling everyone a little bit about you because we see you always at the awards and the holiday party. But you guys have been so busy and you're always working. You guys just have a team that works offsite. How many people are on your team now? 10?
10, yeah.
10?
About 10.
Okay,
Yeah, we've done
cool.
some growth this year, adding 3, but historically we've ran with, 5 to 7 people, and this year had some good growth.
Awesome. And you've been at Keller Williams 12 or 13 years now, I think. And then how long have you been in real estate?
Yeah, it might be more like 15
15
or 16
now?
years here.
Oh my gosh, I
And-
gotta go check. Yeah.
Yeah, and I started in 2000, March of 2000.
Oh my gosh.
25 years this coming March.
Cool. And for those of you that don't know, Darryl has sold and his team have sold more listings or more sales in RMLS than anyone else ever. Period. Right?
Yeah.
Just like end of the sentence.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a pretty cool accomplishment. I don't know if I said that right. All of RMLS history sold more.
Yeah, they started recording in 1988, I think. Since the time they started recording, it's top of the charts.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And you guys have sold over 1.5 billion in volume and over 4,000 transactions, going up every day.
Yeah, we're over 4,500 transactions
Now,
now,
oh my gosh,
and over, I think we just broke 450 this year. So it's
that's so
exciting.
cool. And is
Record
that
year.
that's your record, your guys' record
Yeah,
this year?
yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I make jokes sometimes of last year. A lot of almost all of our agents were down. But last year, so I just wanted to plant those seeds and kind of learn a little bit about you because for those that don't know you. So now let's talk about your business model and how a lot of your listings and development. Maybe you can just share a little bit about that and about your Street of Dreams homes that you have in there too.
Sure. So this year, actually, for the past few years, the city of Portland has, thrown everybody a curveball. Actually, it started at the state level with a Senate bill that, basically changed every one house to 4 on any residential lot. And so in the state making those changes, they've handed it down to every city jurisdiction. So every city now has to change their building code and adopt these new state mandates. And so the city of Portland was one of the first ones to, produce their code. And, just like our lender here said at the beginning, rates are still up over 7%. That's not really affordable for a lot of people. If we look at, the history of national averages of rates, it's not bad, but for what we've had in the last, 7 to 10 years, it's tough. People can't afford that. And so the problem that we've had is since COVID, there's been no inventory. We've had these, high rates come around recently. And so that's what's made it really hard. We talked about last year's statistics. Buyers just can't afford to buy unless we get creative and find ways to accommodate that. So with these new products that, we're trying to get developed and out there, and primarily it's been in the city of Portland, but we're hoping, to see more and more growth outside the city as well, which is restricted by the urban growth boundary, which hopefully we can see some change to that soon too. But moral of the story is, a lot of people just can't afford to buy something, and what they can't afford, it's not, something that a fixer-upper isn't for every buyer. So just because it's 400,000 doesn't mean somebody has another 100,000 to go in and make it livable for themselves, or the means to come up with that money. So, the affordable housing push is a program that, for one, builders and the city of Portland building code are able to accommodate by putting more homes on any single lot. And then the Portland Housing Bureau at the same time has produced programs such as the SDC waiver program, which is a program to help support median family income earners in the city who want to own or occupy a house, to give them some kind of opportunity to get a lower price point. There's also another program called HOLTE. HOLTE program is a tax exemption or a limited property tax program. And the HOLTE program's harder to get, but if you can get it and you qualify, it's a great way to make your monthly payments far more affordable. SDC waiver program is a price cap. HOLTE is a property tax cap. If you can get both of them together, it's great, but there's just not that many HOLTE. SDC, however, if you make less than the median family income, or it's actually 120% of the median family income for Portland, that's $140,000, $280 a year. You qualify as long as you're owner occupied. And that means that the builder receives a approximately $25,000 to $40,000 discount on their system development charges for construction, and they're expected to pass that down to the buyer for a more affordable price. The price cap right now is $455,000, but we've got inventory all the way down to $140,000, depending on what the buyer wants and their location, etc. We do have, because of the Street of Dreams push this year for affordable housing, we do have some cards that we'll leave with everybody from the Street of Dreams, and it does have a QR code on there where you can scan into our website and see what our inventory is. We do have the most affordable housing inventory in the city. Literally hundreds of doors right now available for buyers under $450,000. So it's pretty amazing. And a lot of times we get the misconception that it's low income housing, but it's not low income housing. It's not like these are subpar locations or homes that have deficiencies. This is essentially, as pushed through Street of Dreams this year, it's affordable luxury housing. I mean, these are new homes. They're beautiful. They have all the stuff you see in, higher priced homes. You get your slab stone countertops, you get your solid surface flooring, you get brand new construction with builder warranties. So all in all, they're beautiful, luxury homes. They're just smaller in size, ranging from 400 square feet up to 1,350 square feet for some of the 3-bedroom homes. A lot of them these days are not condos. They're fee simple, just like regular houses. They have backyards, and they're pretty affordable options. A lot of times some neighbors don't like the density in their neighborhood, but others will come over and say, this is amazing because my daughter had to leave our neighborhood to afford a house, and now she can stay nearby. So there's a lot of neat things going on with it in the city, and I think it's a great opportunity considering we're still at some of our lowest inventory numbers that we've ever had, and rates are still higher than they've been in a long time. So these opportunities are huge, and we get a lot of questions about it, and that's why we thought it'd be neat to come in and if people had questions, talk about it. We work with, I would say, out of our transactions each year, a good 25% of them are with Keller Williams agents. And we always try to, help our KW family as much as we can. And so, if you have buyers out there looking, or you have questions about the program, maybe you don't even know about these opportunities yet, but it'd be great to answer them and see if we can all do more business.
That's awesome. And a lot of people, oh, go ahead. Do you want
On the program.
Yeah.
That's something that the buyer is willing.
It kicks, so with new construction in general, property taxes are based on land the first year until the assessor comes and reassesses it. However, if you're paying cash, you get that lower tax rate until it's reassessed. If you're using financing, the lender wants to qualify you on what the taxes should be. So your first year, when you're qualifying for the loan, chances are the lender is going to take whatever they estimate the full amount of taxes to be, and they're going to qualify the buyer on that. And then their impound accounts will also reflect that amount until the assessor comes, reassesses the property, and then the city of Portland applies the exemption. So the exemption itself is basically you'll still pay tax on the land. The exemption comes on the tax they charge on the structure. So it's a huge savings. I've seen people save $400 or $500 a month from what it would be to what they save on the whole program. So that's a pretty significant number, far more of a savings than even on an interest rate discount of 0.5% or 1%. I mean, you're talking, several percent to get to $400 or $500.
Yeah, and that's the Holty program. So let's
Holty
talk about
program.
the SDC one just a little bit more in depth. So these buyers, if they would want to buy one of your listings that qualifies for the SDC and they qualify, they can just get that discount. And if they don't qualify, they can still buy the house, right?
Yes, correct. So even if they don't qualify, and we see this a lot, like at our Street of Dreams site, we had 3 homes. They were all very similar as far as size and amenities go. One of them was priced at $490 non-SDC. The other 2 were priced at $455 exemption limit. But the people who bought the $490, they didn't qualify. They were happy to pay the price. They couldn't get anything else new that's that nice, under 500,000 in that location. They were very happy. We just sold one in Selwood, same deal. The guy made 160,000. So he thought he just couldn't buy any of the product that was a SDC waiver. Turns out he got a beautiful new home right in the heart of Selwood for $479. I was extremely happy. So there is a repayment that the builder has to pay to the city. So when he applies for his permits, the Portland Housing Bureau calculates what his savings are as long as he sells to an SDC eligible buyer. And then there's a lien placed on the property. So when you get your preliminary title report, you see the lien that the builder would have to pay if he sells to non-eligible buyers. And then the payoff is established after each sale, whether someone is eligible not. There is an application process that a buyer goes through, but it's all pretty simple and it's easy to pre-qualify your buyers, going into it with a few easy questions.
Matthew. Tim, will you?
So they do, so part of their application process is they do ask for, I think, your last year's tax return and your current year-to-date pay stub, because they want to make sure that your year-to-date does not exceed their income limit, but they also look at your tax return, I believe, to make sure you don't have other income. So I don't know that it's, if you have 10 houses across the city, they're probably not going to approve you for that, but I've seen cash buyers be eligible. I've seen, oftentimes young people can't quite qualify or they need a gift, and that you can still be eligible even with co-signers and co-buyers. Like the parents' income, for example, won't disqualify the occupant from buying the property.
Got it. So like a senior who downsized on the East Coast, sold a house, has 700,000 in cash assets, but they only make 60 on fixed income. That's not
Yep.
gonna
Totally eligible.
Okay.
Yeah, totally eligible.
And then any appraisal challenges that you're seeing if somebody's buying, one's buying at 490 and the same product somebody else is buying at 450 or whatever it is, how long do they have to hold it before is there a clawback if they sell, or how is that working for the neighbor?
Yeah, so to answer the one question, there's no repayment. There's nothing that rides with the title at closing that says if you resell this, you've got to repay something. There's nothing like that. They expect that you're going to live in the house, but yet to be seen if they even qualify that after closing. But the rules are you live there, but you can sell it anytime. You can change your mind anytime. Holte, on the other hand, it's up to 10 years in tax savings, but you can't rent it or you can't, do other stuff with it. You have to live there. If you sell it, it's done. If you rent it, that option's done. SDC, however, no ongoing restrictions. If you decide to rent it a couple years later, great, nothing changes, no repayment. If you sell it, nothing changes, no repayment. HOLTE.
Good questions, you guys. And chime up if you have any questions. We do have a mic going around because people
Are
aren't.
you seeing people buy these as rentals?
Yeah, we've had a lot of people buy them as rentals. In some cases, someone will come in and say, don't finish the land division or the condo plat, we'll buy the whole building. So, so oftentimes we see these sell the whole building, or we'll see people come in and buy one and they'll just pay the extra to keep it as a rental because they're truly just good opportunities. The rents are good. Like I said, locations vary. So some of these locations are like prime Alberta arts, like you're right next to the food cart pod and Pine State Biscuits. Other ones maybe a little further out and not as good, but there is housing options for everybody all across the city, depending on what their needs are and what they want.
Yeah. And a lot of us went and saw your Street of Dreams houses, and they were really cool because there was options. You could do all four, you could do two, you could do one, right?
Yeah,
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I don't know how many of you guys made it out to the Street of Dreams stuff, but we had one community, which are the new cottage cluster design. So these are actually detached, fee simple homes, just like selling a normal house in any suburb, no restrictions, no HOA. You can just sell it, you own it. So the cottage cluster was a really neat product because you could get a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, no restrictions, no HOA, backyard of your own. Really cool. So you could buy one, buy all, however you wanted to do that. But there's also other products that are like a 4-plex or a 6-plex, and those can either be condos or fee simple ownership. And you could buy, multiple units, one unit, the whole building, depends on the buyer's appetite, but everybody has different uses. So they're great for, even if it's not an affordable housing buyer that you're working with, they're also great investment opportunities if you're working with, like Cameron over here might have a multifamily buyer who needs something with a certain cap rate, and these are great opportunities for those kind of buyers as well. Not me personally, but we work with a large variety of clients, developers, builders, and so a lot of different product. Sometimes the styling might seem the same, but it doesn't mean it's the same.
Yeah. Cole has the two of the Street of Dreams ones on there were two different builders.
Yeah.
They're
So this one, these could have been sold as a duplex on each side. It had a single family residence, 3 bedroom in the front, and then an attached ADU in the back. These could have been pushed through a condo plat where each unit sold separately. In this case, the minute they came on the market, the primary suite on the main was a huge hit. That's a hard one to find in new construction. And people came in and bought 2 halves. So they bought the house with the ADU on both sides and lived in one side and had family or renters in the back. So those were very the cottage cluster design.
Yeah, and cluster is almost a misnomer because these are just lined up along the long side of the lot, right?
Yeah, correct. They're just
And those were gorgeous.
They were beautiful. I know you touched on it that they have nice finishes, but I mean, these were beautiful, right? Like
Yeah.
not,
They were $1 million
they,
comparables out here.
I mean, they were great. Like if anyone has buyers in that price range, I mean, they should be looking at those.
Yeah.
Bradley.
Hey, Darryl, out of curiosity, what kind of construction timelines are you seeing from your clients from purchasing the land to being completed?
Well, it depends on the city of Portland usually because they're no joy. You know,
They
they
fast
want,
track 'em? Excuse me.
they don't, no, they want affordable, but then their programs for that, you know, generally delay the process. So we've had certain projects recently where the permits are ready, they could start building, but Portland Housing Bureau hasn't issued the SDC approval yet because they're behind. So you sit for a few months waiting. But to answer your question specifically, you know, it could be anywhere from 12 to 24 months turn time on a project start.
So you have to get the SDC approval during the building process, and then the buyers have to get their SDC.
During permitting, yeah. And the builder pays a fee to the Portland Housing Bureau to obtain the SDC program, you know, compliance, and then the buyer does their own application when they're ready to purchase. There's no pre-approval process for Portland Housing Bureau. They're all property address specific applications. So you guys got to do your best if you're working with a buyer like that to know what questions to ask and pre-qualify them so that they know if it's something that they can. And it's basically, are you going to live here? You know, probably you guys know that if you're working with someone already. But the tougher question for some realtors is asking how much their clients make. However, as the glue to any transaction, the realtor, you know, should feel comfortable asking these kind of questions for the betterment of their client and smoother transaction. Yeah, they don't. It takes some time. They say 10 days to get an approval from Portland Housing Bureau. That's not always the case. Sometimes, other times they can take, you know, 20 to 30 days, but they typically try to put them in an order of closing date. But, you know, again, if you can pre-qualify your client up front, then there shouldn't be any hurdles. There's no major surprises unless they got $1 million in the bank somewhere that they haven't told you about.
And is their SDC application specific to a property, or is it for any?
The application is generic, but the approval is specific to a site because they then issue the lien release for the repayment of the fees at closing. So they need to know who's closing, who the closer is, what property address, what building.
Joe and then Grace here.
What are your building developers looking for? What are the top stats?
Good question.
That's a very difficult question because there's so many nuances to building code and site development that it's hard to just say, this is what we want. You know, but, you know, pretty much any land could be considered, preferring closer in locations, you know, where there's walkability and stuff like that is always, you know, nice. And so in turn, in selling some of this stuff, that's why I say it's not, you know, low income housing. It's actually a lot of great locations. We've got stuff on, you know, Division, right at Clinton Division. We've got stuff right in the heart of Alberta Arts. We've got stuff in Woodstock, you know, great locations all around the city where people have their favorite coffee shops or, you know, their favorite restaurants. And so it is really nice, and they are affordable. Like there's some pretty neat stuff out there right now that builders are trying to, you know, get moved that are great opportunities.
Are you generally looking for lots with long frontages? Like
That's
what we saw
ideal.
during the street?
Yeah, that was, I mean, this was wherever that one went was a nice curb appeal. But, you are limited on how many units you can get on a site like that. And, affordability comes from being able to scale and have more units in one site, more like a subdivision. So, some locations will get, 10 to 20 units, other ones will only get 3 or 2. And so it just changes the affordability level depending on how many units can be found. But this is a very nice example. Being it was a corner lot, they felt like they fit right into the neighborhood and were very charming houses. It felt just like a normal traditional.
Are you working on any that have 10 to 20 units, the larger one?
Yeah, we have some listed, in fact, right now with higher density units, and they look very nice.
Where are they?
We have some in St. John's, we have some out in Southeast Portland, and a lot more stuff coming.
So they're on acreage, maybe a couple acres or.
Nope, still smaller lots. So
Okay.
you can fit quite a bit onto smaller lots these days, as long as you know the building code and the restrictions.
And some of them are very affordable. I just got the email about the ones that are 150, under 150. Like that
Yeah.
doesn't even seem possible.
Yeah,
But it-
yeah, it is.
Because
Yeah.
you're not competing against all the investors necessarily, right?
Yes.
At that price point.
Yeah, those units are a little smaller.
Mhm.
They're on Burnside, but they're right on light rail, on like 130th and Burnside, I think. But for people who are renting in that area and they're taking light rail to work, it's an opportunity for them to get their foot in the door also. Whereas right now, I mean, anything you could probably find for 150, you may not want to live in, or the HOA dues price you out of affordability. And so just having opportunities like that are amazing. And I think it's just a matter of getting it in front of people, and act. I mean, our whole market starts with the first time home buyer. And I say this all the time. And when rates went up and inventory went down, we no longer had a way of activating first time home buyers. So it kind of stops the real estate market. Without a first time home buyer, you don't have a move up buyer. And so by creating this inventory and activating renters, so to say, or first time home buyers, or even downsizers that just are ready to sell but have nothing to go to, this is a great opportunity to connect with your sphere and let people know that it's out there, because there are cool walkable locations. We've seen so many retirees downsize to stuff like this. They're like, I don't want to take care of my house anymore. I want to walk to everything I want to do. And these have just been a huge blessing in their lives. So I think there's a lot of opportunity as long as we can share that with our clients and let them know that it's out there. And we might be surprised as to how much that can bring the market back by itself.
Grace, and then
I have two questions. So if you have an investor that's interested in something like this, has the price on the RMLS already accounted for the discount? And so they're gonna have to pay a little bit more than what they're
Yes.
seeing?
Yeah, and so in the properties that are SDC eligible, we note that typically in the listing and the comments, especially in the private comments where realtors can see it. But it also kind of quotes or estimates the repayment fee if someone isn't eligible. Commonly, we see that fee being about $25,000 that needs to be repaid. But the problem is that $25,000 becomes a lien and then accrues interest from the time they pull the building permit until the time of the sale. So we're seeing it come in anywhere from like 30 to 32 commonly for repayment rate. So we try to estimate that so you can see it up front.
Is it so? I've seen a lot of these, and they're all gorgeous and pretty, but most of them are in Multnomah County and Portland.
True.
Is there any move to go to the west side? Like I have people in Beaverton that would love something like this, or
Yeah.
Tigard.
So the state mandate is pushing that all jurisdictions need to adopt a building code for this. A lot of them are pushing back because it's more suburbs and they don't necessarily want that building code in their areas. City of Portland wants the density and the affordable housing, so they're really pushing for it. I think eventually we will see more and more stuff like this in other areas, but right now, like we're working on stuff in Tualatin and Tigard, but they still don't necessarily, they won't commit that they know how to work with it yet.
because each city can put their own over.
Right,
on the
right.
regulations. Okay. Good question.
Yeah.
Matthew.
So I've seen some buyers that are 12, 24. So,
Yeah, I would say that there's always, I have a hard time with the media myself and watching that stuff. I tend to, rely more on what I'm seeing in the market and what we're touching, and there's a certain pulse out there that we all feel based on sales. But I'm an eternal optimist when it comes to business, and I feel like there's always another way to figure it out, no matter what we encounter. And when I started in 2000, we were coming off the late 90s market crash. Got into the business learning how to do short sales. The market picked up. I learned how to do land development. The market crashed again, and we started doing REOs and short sales again. So it doesn't matter what the market is, new opportunity presents itself. And it's a matter of being creative and being able to change with the tide and figure out what that opportunity is. And so, to your statement, there's always going to be a cycle. There's always going to be an up. There's always going to be a down. We know that. It's done it for decades. But the good news is, in every up cycle, we're all busy, and in every down cycle, there's new opportunity. And so, next year, just to answer your other question, we've got, a projected like 600 units that'll come online. So there will be inventory, and it'll just depend on what rates do as to how quickly that moves. But, by the way I time the cycle, we're coming out of the last of a 3-year down cycle. And, other people may not agree with me, but that's my opinion. And I think that 2025 will start the engine again. And I think that things will start moving. So I think a lot of that will coincide with rates, but that should eventually start to do better as well. So, but again, you don't need to wait for that, because there's opportunity out there today for everybody in this room. It just depends on how much you want to talk to people, how new ideas, new opportunities. But it's a great time for investors to buy rentals, because we know we're at the bottom of pricing, and we know that they can refinance next year as rates come down. So if you've got anybody that hasn't been activated yet that is talking about rentals, well, now's the time. Because if you wait for rates, then prices are going to go up and you lose the opportunity. If it's someone who says, I can't afford to buy my first house because rates are too high, but again, you can refinance next year. There's a lot of affordable opportunities out there today that will work just fine if you can find the opportunity. And you buy now, you sell 2 years from now when the market's on the way up again, and at least you got your 2-year tax-free gain out of the deal. And that's another way of making money that isn't just worrying about what the payment is every month. FHA has 100% down programs now, right? And conventional programs, so you can do rate. Oh no, that's amazing. It's amazing. So 100% programs are available. You can go up to 6% with rate buy downs. You could do a 1-2-3 buy down, or a 2-3-2-1 buy down. There you go. And that money goes into like a impound account. And if you sell prior to the 3 years because rates come down or you refinance, you actually get a refund on your buy down amount. So, you're not even losing all that money up front, but you're creating an affordable payment for today that you might even get that savings account back in a year or two when you refinance. So, there's a lot of huge opportunities. And when you have, a ton of inventory that's brand new that you don't have to do repairs to, and you get builder warranties with it, I mean, you can activate a lot of buyers that maybe just didn't know that there's an option.
Right, supplement. So people are paying on.
Mm-hmm.
You do a permanent buy down.
Mm-hmm. And I think we all know that eventually rates will soften up. Of course, speculating, but the idea is rates will eventually come back down. So if you can get a 3-2-1, that means you're introducing a very low payment that's affordable today. Each year it gradually goes up. By the time you hit the third year, chances are you have other opportunities and you'll get your 2 years tax-free gain on the property. And I mean, then all of a sudden you have a buyer who couldn't get their foot in the door to having a repeat buyer or a move-up buyer who actually has a down payment for their next house. And if we're not out here, educating people on these opportunities, then we're not activating the market like we need.
Yes, and by bringing this knowledge and education to your buyers, you are creating such a high level of value, like you said, for the move up. But,
Yeah.
I mean, and if you're not knowledgeable on these affordability programs, the different lending options that are out there for different types of buyers, right? Like you're not doing your clients you're doing your clients a disservice, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's really cool how you're not just doing something that's good for business, but doing something that's good for affordability in
Thank you.
housing in Portland. Grace.
Yeah, a lot of them are still willing to pay. I mean, it's obviously not something we advertise anymore, but they're still willing to pay it. They just they'll give me a dirty look if it's a bad offer with 2.5%. I've seen some people try to write in 3% these days, and everybody kind of turns their head to that a little bit. But yeah, I've done my part. I feel like to convince everybody we work with that the market hasn't changed. Only the rules have changed. And so the industry is still, we want buyers agents out there working with buyers because that's a tough job in a lot of cases. Not that any real estate job is easy, but everybody has to be compensated fairly. And at the end of the day, every seller wants their house to sell as well. And so I think it's just, sell, sell, sell. And if you worry about your client first and the money last, it usually seems to follow.
I would imagine that your group is responsible for more infill sales by far than anyone else right now. I'm fair to say.
I would guess so. Yeah.
Does the city support you? I mean, you probably recognize the people. They don't really care.
No.
Well, we had a title guy in here a few years ago, and he said that the new measure wasn't really getting any traction in the state, and they were all frustrated that the builders weren't jumping on all this infill and the cities weren't. But it sounds like the city of Portland wants it, and so they developed ways to help, give it a little gas, right?
Yeah.
So here we can help here, we can help here. They're eating some SDC fees and everything else. So, I think it's pretty fantastic. I mean, you're making Portland look better because they change a neighborhood when you build them 2 or 3 in a 3 or 4 block radius. Just like what's been happening in Lake Oswego and Westland.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's needed, I mean, just to have families stay in certain cities where it's no longer affordable. So I think it's a great thing. And, but the city makes the rules, but then they don't always have the staffing or the people to make it run smooth. And I think that's the issue. Maybe they'll get it figured out.
How did you start getting into relationships with all of these builders?
Just gradually over time. I mean, after doing it for 25 years, you do run into enough people that you create relationships, and that's what a lot of it is relationships, and just knowing the details. It's a matter of staying educated because there's a lot of things that happen and change every year, and as realtors, we're supposed to add value, right? It's what we're all here to do for our clients and our transactions, and so I think one of the things that's missing a lot in the market these days are realtors trying to stay up and educate themselves on the programs and what's going on. And then they go out there to try to help clients, but it almost feels a little bit like blind leading the blind. And so I think that, the big win for smart brokers is being educated and being up to date with the market changes, the rules, the programs, the lending programs. I mean, a lot of people don't have a clue. A lot of realtors just say, well, that's not my department. I leave that up to the lender. But as the realtor, we are the glue of the transaction. So if you don't,
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, two great examples right here of like mastering the programs in order to.
And a lot of times buyers won't even know that they can buy, or they won't even know half of what they can do with their financing. And so, that's one of the big ones is, making sure you're with a lender that knows what they're doing, that knows the programs, but you have to know what they are also so that you can help safety check because not every lender is going to be, great, just like not every realtor is great, right? And so you have to know enough to know that if your buyer's getting themselves in a bad position, that you can help them. So I do think, knowing the loan programs, knowing the process is all very important. And if you don't, then, you might not know a pitfall for your client. So I think it's just very important to be educated, research stuff. Google's a great tool these days. Also. But, there's a lot of opportunity. Just, so the more you know, the more questions you can answer. When I first started years ago, I remember somebody saying in a class that the more somebody asks questions, the more Q&A you have with the client, and the more questions you can answer, the closer you get to a sale. And so the more you know and the more you have the right answer when a buyer or a seller asks questions, the closer you are to having another deal put together. So it builds that trust and, the base for a transaction. The owners manage that piece. So it's set up initially to be affordable and non-invasive for buyers. So that what you're referring to is a condo plat. So if we built 4 units, you can either do middle housing land division, which means there's no condo, and it's just be simple, no HOA dues. If you go the other route, it's a condo plat through the state, and with the condo plat, you have, in a lot of cases, the way we all might think of it if we've done this a while, is it includes a new roof for the building in 10 years or paint 15 years. And so the dues are higher. In some cases, they include utilities and other stuff as well. The way these new ones are being set up in some cases is called a shoebox condo. And a shoebox condo means that you own the land under your townhouse style dwelling. You own a private area in your backyard. So it's set up to be more like a regular house than it is to be a condo in a community. These shoebox condos, they're also referred to as site condos. They're a little easier to develop in the sense that there's not a lot of restrictions. So people buy one, they move in. Yes, they're low, affordable HOA dues, but that's because each owner pretty much takes care of their own house, just like a normal detached dwelling might. Those low dues commonly only cover a master insurance policy for like a trip and fall or liability of the community, just to keep the community healthy, and then the annual state filing fees to renew the condo. Some might have higher dues depending on what they include, but we try to keep them low and let people do their own thing. And after it's handed over to the owners get to vote because they're now in control of the HOA. They want to add stuff.
Would you say this new construction attracts resale homes?
Attracts resale
Yeah,
homes?
owners that need to sell to buy one of yours, or owners in a neighborhood that see what you're doing, like what you're doing, meet your people at open houses, start having conversations and
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a conversation starter in neighborhoods. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but a lot of people, if they want to buy a house, they're interested, and they don't always care what the neighbor thinks. In other cases, neighbors love it, and we see family members move in next door, or people who just say, "Hey, I've got a house that is in disrepair, and I don't want to fix it up. Do you want to buy it?" And so, there's different opportunities that activate the marketplace for sure.
How many active listings do you have right now? I should have looked at. Probably changes
Geez.
by the minute. Kelly, do you know?
Yeah, probably a few hundred.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
at
Right?
various stages of construction.
No, like
Actual
Say is that
for
listed-
sale, ready to
listed.
go. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And they're all on the MLS, so you guys can search for those.
Yeah.
And then let's introduce the rest of your team.
Yeah, and on our website also, and you guys will see that on here, but we have the most affordable housing inventory, and you can go to our website anytime and search just like you could in the RMLS and find it. So if you have something in specific you're looking for, feel free to reach out to, myself or someone on the staff and check out the website because it's very easy to navigate and you can see immediately what's available for you.
Yeah, and you brought up another good point of, collaborating within our Keller Williams infrastructure of, what you have coming up too. You're in the process of a lot of different bills.
Absolutely. Yeah. And pricing is still kind of hard to forecast right now in some things, but oftentimes, we know, at least a year to 18 months in advance what's coming. And so if you have a buyer, it was different when inventory was really low, but we would get people that would call and say, hey, we want to be in this neighborhood or this price. And we were able to pair them up with stuff, even if it wasn't listed yet. We can still do that today, but there is a fair amount of stuff on the market. And there's always a better deal for something that's finished and listed than something that's not yet done. But a lot of stuff out there and coming.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, every property is a different client. So every client has a different budget or outlook on what they can afford to do. Some are more motivated than others. Timing sometimes plays a factor. So I guess it would just depend. If your client was specific to one property and we had a seller that wasn't that motivated, maybe that doesn't work. But if you said, hey, we don't care where we're at, we just need this price, I'm sure we could find something else. Also, in some cases, when there's a demolition that takes place on a site before the new construction goes in, we can get some bonus credits from City of Portland. So like if your client isn't SDC eligible, for example, because it's an investment property, in some cases, we can avoid the repayment if the site had a demolition prior to construction. So not every site has that, but if your client was specific to just say, we want one of these, which one's had a demo where the credits are still available, we could try to find something that would work.
Cool.
So there's, tricks and loopholes, so to say, where opportunities can be found for investment buyers.
Excellent. Any final questions before we wrap up? Darryl, we are so thankful for you
Thanks,
to
man.
come and present.
Yeah,
You've really mastered. Oh yeah, we're in full interest. You've really mastered these programs and your niche. And I love when you said in an up market we're all busy. In a down market, there's new opportunities. Like
Yep.
that's such a good mindset. And then we got Kelly now.
Yep,
Wave to
we got
everyone.
Kelly and Alec here from our staff also. And so if you ever call in on stuff, you might catch one of them as well. But, knowledgeable staff, everybody's wants to be helpful. So if we've got buyers and you just have questions, let us know and we'll help as much as we can. Or if you have a fixer house and, don't know what to do with it, give us a call as well and might be able to make it an easy transaction.
Wonderful.
Cool.
Thank you so
Thank-
much. An applause for Darryl. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.